Good evening. To better understand the impact of deafness on young children, I thought we should start at the beginning, and that is with the typical developing baby. They come into the world as little but extremely competent individuals, and they come with 9 months of experience. And regardless of their cultural, their ethnic, their linguistic, their racial, or their socioeconomic backgrounds, babies are neurologically wired to respond to their environment and develop human relationships. We know this. Back in the 1950s, researchers such as Stella Chase and others observed babies and created a theory that's in wide use today, that is of temperament. And they outlined 9 different temperament styles for us. The easy and the flexible baby, those are the ones that would sleep through the night. They would go to anybody, and they make you feel like a great parent. And then there's the fussy and the feisty ones, a bit more challenging. And some of you might remember having to drive your baby in the middle of the night for 2 hours just to get them to go to sleep. Or there's the slow to warm up and the cautious baby. Those are the ones that stand back and observe. They're not too quick to jump in, and they might even be in your classrooms today. They know the answer, but they're not comfortable raising their hand. Then we learned from T. Barry Brazelton and some other researchers to take that theory of competence and also of temperament and expand on it to learn about the emotional involvement of parent and child and the importance of that dyad. They took their studies, they created scales, assessment tools, and curriculum that we as teachers and therapists use to teach parents how to read their baby's own cues. Cues such as lighting changes in the environment, textures, taste, touch, temperature, and how to read a parent's faces and how to hear and respond to a parent's voice. But what happens if the baby is born profoundly deaf? What if they don't hear those voices? So imagine not hearing the sound of the wind blowing in the trees or the birds singing. Imagine being 4 years old and sitting at a dinner table conversation, and all of a sudden your siblings and your parents jump up and rush to the front door. They hear a knock, and you're sitting there wondering where they went and why they left. Or imagine being 2 years old and playing in the playground, falling down, scraping a knee, and you cannot hear the sound of your dad's soothing voice. Or even a younger baby, a little newborn 2 months old, hungry and tired, and mom is trying to soothe you as she sings you a lullaby, but you don't hear that voice. Rather than just imagine, what I've done is presented a simulation for you to hear what it's like to have a hearing loss. In the first demonstration, you'll have normal hearing. The sentence was, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." Now I want you to imagine a piano keyboard. On the left are the low tones or the low pitches or where our vowel sounds are. On the right are the high notes and the high pitches. If I took out those high pitches or those consonants, it would sound something like this. Winna, winna, aw. Now if I took out more of them, so you heard nothing more than beyond middle C, you would hear it more like So you would have inflection. You might hear the difference between a male and female voice, but you can imagine how difficult that might be to go through life like that. In fact, many of the children and parents that I know who are adults will say that that left them confused, frustrated, often embarrassed, and typically isolated. So deafness, the invisible handicap. It affects 1 out of about 350 babies, more than any other condition for which we have newborn hearing screening. About half is genetic, about half is environmental, from viruses, bacteria, and many of our kids were born very prematurely. And you can see it crosses all socioeconomic, linguistic, and cultural boundaries. In 1970s, when I started in this field, we knew that the average age of identification was about 2.5 years old. Let me put that in context for you. Most children who are 3, who have normal hearing, have somewhere between 750 and 1,000 words in their speaking vocabulary. They can ask questions, they can imagine, and they can really interact. Our children who were identified at 2.5, by the time they were 3, they had 25 words in the vocabulary. So we know they started kindergarten very, very late. I was working in a California public program at about the time that Proposition 13 hit the voters, and my colleague and I were very worried that the program would be threatened and even cut. So we thought the best thing to do in the world would be to start our own nonprofit. We knew nothing about grants, nothing about business, but the two of us wrote a grant with the help with some friends, and we started SEED in 1980, and it was a 3-year model demonstration program. I never in a million years thought it would go to now what's going to be 31 years at the end of the month. We started as a staff of 2. Thanks. Thanks. We started as a staff of 2, and now I have 28 members of our incredibly stellar multidisciplinary team. Today, what's also exciting is we have newborn hearing screening. In this state, around the country, across the world, babies are identified at birth. They can get hearing aids as young as a few weeks or a few months of age, and if hearing aids don't provide them enough sound, they actually can be candidates for cochlear implants. 7 years ago, at the help of one of our own parent alumni, we built a wonderful facility in West Berkeley. We call it a one-stop shop. It's got audiology and childcare and our special education. And when you walk in the doors in the morning, you will feel the robust energy of very young children eager to learn and teachers excited to teach. You will see children in our regular childcare, hearing children whose parents want them to learn alongside our deaf children. So they come to school every day, they learn sign language, and they interact with our kids. You'll see little children in class. We call it the diaper brigade, 18 months to 3 years old, who come every day to learn language and learn how to talk with their peers and develop compassion as young children. You'll see children going off to speech therapy to really develop their best potential for listening and spoken language. And also you'll see even deeper, compassion in the classroom. Our teachers down at the children's level, explaining words, explaining vocabulary and abstract languages. And when you might see, whether it's a classroom or out on the playground, for example, if the teacher's talking to one child about something, as a hearing person, you hear another child across the room or on the playground crying. What our teachers will do is stop right there, tell the child to listen. They hear something or somebody crying. They'll accompany them over to the other child and help them ask, "What's wrong? I hear you crying. Do you need some help?" And so every minute of the day, our teachers are not only teaching vocabulary, but helping them learn compassion. A year ago, we were honored to take our model to an orphanage in Pingalwara in India. We thought we were teaching a group of 12 teachers, and over the course of the week, that classroom filled to 50 people who had driven as much as 2 days to come and participate. We presented to a lecture hall of 100 pediatricians. Not one of them thought that you could identify a baby's hearing early, much less give them hearing aids before they were 3 or 4 years old. And we met with parents, one mother whose baby did have a cochlear implant, and she had no idea why her baby wasn't turning to sound, and she told us it might be 4 months till she got to go back to a specialist. We are very excited that a team of 3 of those teachers should be returning to us this fall so we can do a training for 3 weeks and let them shadow our staff and learn more. And back home, right here, we have a special program that was brought to our attention 7 years ago by one of our board members, whose adult brother, is profoundly deaf. She introduced us to Prospect Sierra. They have a service learning program for every one of their grades, and their 3rd graders are our buddies. Our 3rd graders are able to learn compassion, that, as I would define it, a sympathetic awareness to another's distress and the desire to alleviate any kind of suffering. And you'll see how they come into our classrooms, they participate in circle time, they help children get dressed as they go out to play, they attend speech therapy with them and learn skills to help them talk, and they share a wonderful hug at the end of every session. One special story is about a little guy named Samuel. And Samuel was born the 10th baby in his family, very premature. He was in intensive care for several months and was severe to profoundly deaf. Samuel's 3rd birthday was in January. And in December, we told the buddies that Samuel had to leave because of funding, but they would have another buddy in January. And the children were very upset with us. Why were we kicking him out of our school? They asked their parents, why couldn't Samuel's mom just pay the tuition? And they asked their teachers what they could do to help. So over the winter break, they all got together collectively, and they decided to put their compassion in action. They created a bike-a-thon, and it happened right here at Point Richmond. They knocked on the doors of their neighbors. They wrote letters to their grandparents, foundations to small banks in the area. They collected their tooth fairy money. Remember, they're only 8 years old. They made and sold jewelry, and some of them, much to the dismay of their parents, they offered us their college tuition for Samuel. Together, they had a wonderful bike-a-thon. It went in the newspapers, and the result was $25,000 that they raised for Samuel. So he was able to stay, I know. He stayed with us for a year and a half, and I'm proud to report he's in 3rd grade. His favorite subject is math and horses. What I'd like these 3rd graders to know, and obviously all of you, is as they move on to high school, college, graduate school, they become parents or CEOs of big corporations, the decision they made to get involved truly does make a difference to Samuel and all those children. It makes a difference to helping our kids now who have gone off to college themselves, become married, and they are parents, and some have even graduated graduate school and law school. It made a difference to their opportunities. So in closing, I share with you a quick poem by Gabriela Mistral, and this is the essence and the core of what we believe happens at SEED. Many things can wait, the child cannot. Now is the time his bones are being formed, his blood is being made, and his mind is being developed. To him, we cannot say tomorrow. His name is today. And on behalf of all the children and the parents and staff at SEED, I so appreciate you opening up your eyes and your ears to learn a little bit more about our work. And I invite you to become partners and help us make sure every child has the opportunity for success. Thank you.